Welcome to the Health and Wellbeing show here on Uxbridge FM. Our guest for today's show is psychologist Dr. Rina Bajaj. Hi, Rina.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me today.
No worries. Now, tell us a bit about what you do, first of all.
Sure. So I'm a counselling psychologist by background, which means that I have my own private practices. I see clients, and basically I've been trained in a range of approaches, psychological approaches and counselling approaches. So I work with people to really look at what their goals are, where they'd like to be, help them manage their moods, their feelings, their thoughts. So a nice variety of things.
And we're recording this show on Monday, the 20th of January. It's the third Monday in January.
Yep.
And according to a researcher going back to around about 2004, it's the most depressing day of the year. It's Blue Monday.
It's Blue Monday, apparently.
Now, I was doing a bit of research myself, and there was a guy called Cliff Arnold who came up with this formula.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves weather conditions, debt level, time since Christmas, time since failing our New Year's resolutions, low motivational levels, and a feeling of a need to take action. So quite a lot of stuff involved in this formula.
Yeah, it sounds very complicated, doesn't it? And quite potentially depressing, which is why I suppose the term Blue Monday has been coined. However, Blue Monday doesn't necessarily have to be blue, but I think it can be a time where, people are reassessing their goals for the year, thinking ahead. Perhaps there might have been a few failed attempts at some goal setting, or some motivation may have waned in the few weeks since New Year. I think when we come into New Year, it's New Year, New Me. And by this point, the reality of the New Year might be starting to kick in.
So how can we motivate ourselves, do you think, for the rest of the year? Should we set goals, do you think?
I think now's a good point to stop and reevaluate. I think goals can be useful, but sometimes what happens is people can get fixated on goals, and it can almost become conditional. So I'm only worthy if I can achieve this goal. And if I don't achieve this goal, in some way I have failed. And I'd say as humans, we're much more complicated than this. So I think it's useful to have goals to strive towards. That helps us to stay motivated. But if you are thinking of developing goals, I'd also encourage you to think about your why. So why are you setting these goals? What will it mean to you? How will you feel if you achieve these goals? How would you think? How would your life be? So really thinking about the bigger picture. And when we're starting to lose motivation, refocusing back on our why can be really powerful and helpful. Also, sometimes people can set too many goals, or they can set really big goals, which can feel overwhelming. So reevaluate your goals and see if you can break them down into smaller chunks, because it's the small steps that lead to the big changes. So ticking off small steps or having smaller focuses can actually help you stay focused on the bigger picture. Another strategy might be to think about why you're doing this in relation to your core values. So all of us as individuals have core values that drive us. These are our values that are important to us. They mean something to us. They give us a sense of purpose. So usually when we're thinking about developing goals, the goals are surface level. What we're really trying to do is live a life that's more authentically aligned with our values. So let's say if I was looking at, starting a new job or finding a new job, the goal might be to do my CV, go for interviews, apply for jobs. But really, I want to think about why I want to do that. Why do I want to make this change? Perhaps my value is to do a job that I'm passionate about, something that gives me balance in life. So if I can focus on that, I can then reevaluate the action steps that I'm taking to see if they're in line with my values.
It's funny, you do hear a lot of stories of people coming up to their sort of midlives, and they've been in banking or, whatever, and they suddenly think, I quite fancy going into a complete career change and maybe going into the sort of health and wellbeing space or whatever. Perhaps that's what they always wanted to do, but they were just stuck in a bit of a rut and couldn't get out of that.
Yeah, perhaps. And I think also we are conditioned from quite early on, whether we're aware of conditions or not. There's lots of shoulds and musts that we carry. So, we must get a job, we must do this, we must do that. And sometimes we blindly just follow the shoulds and musts because patterns are also powerful. We create patterns for ourselves and they're quite hard to change unless we stop and think about them. So what probably happens is people realize that this isn't working for me anymore, or it doesn't feel okay for me anymore. And then they might reevaluate and say, actually, what feels okay for me now? Where do I want to be? What's important to me? And that's why you can see people changing careers or making quite big life decisions at this point in time or other points in their life.
So what sort of issues do you come up against in your daily sort of practice?
Yeah, I think, people are individuals, so it's very varied. But essentially, a lot of the things that I tend to see are working with people who maybe have anxiety or low mood, or perhaps have been through a traumatic experience, and also relationships. We're relational beings, and our relationships can really impact on how we cope on a day-to-day basis. So lots around relationships or work-related stress as well. So it's very varied. But essentially, I suppose what I deal with is helping people to recognize the link between their feelings, their thoughts, and their behaviors. So this is like a cycle. The way that we feel, whether that's physically or emotionally, impacts on the way that we think, whether that's positively or negatively. And this can impact on what we do or our behavior. And sometimes these patterns work for us and sometimes they don't.
And are there any tips, perhaps, for people watching or listening on people getting, depressed and maybe suffering from a hint of SAD, the seasonal affective disorder? Any tips?
Sure. So what I would say is the first thing is to stop and breathe. And that sounds really simple. However, breathing helps us to regulate our physical body. And that can then help us to turn our logical brain back on so we can think about what support we might need and some strategies. So taking a moment just to breathe in, breathe out. If you can, breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth, and start to count as well, because that turns your logical brain on. And that sounds so simple, but it really does help. So take a moment to breathe and then think about the next steps. It's really important to make sure that you're balancing your needs with the needs of other people. So just take a moment to reevaluate your life and check in with yourself. Does it feel in balance? Does it feel in harmony? If it doesn't, what action steps you need to take to help change that? Another tip would be to monitor your thinking. So, the old school vinyl?
Yeah.
Think of that as your brain, okay, and your thoughts. So we have between 70,000 and 100,000 thoughts a day. Our brain can't consciously monitor all of these thoughts because we wouldn't do anything else. So what happens is your thoughts almost become like the vinyl. They're on loop. And some of our vinyls are more negative and some are more positive because we get used to thinking in a way that's aligned with our patterns. So what you want to do is just start to monitor your thoughts. Notice them. Notice if you're actually more critical or if you're more positive. The first step is to notice. And then the second step is to thought challenge.
Okay.
So if you're noticing that your thoughts are more critical or negative, what you can do is then imagine you're going to court and you're going to present your thought in court. What's the evidence for the thought? And what's the evidence against the thought? And what you'll probably find is that you get used to thinking in a habitual way, but there's no real evidence for your negative thoughts.
Okay.
And then what you can do is create more of a balanced thought. So it's really about recognizing your negative thinking patterns and then consciously trying to change them. So you're almost scratching the vinyl a little bit. And you can choose to play another tune as well if you prefer to do that.
I like that idea of presenting your thoughts in court. That's cool.
Because people take their thoughts or their feelings sometimes as fact. However, what's the evidence?
Yeah, I see. So there are some resources, aren't there, online people can go to. One of them perhaps is your website, rinabajaj.com.
Yeah.
There's also your Facebook page. It's up on the screen there, actually. There. Dr. Rina Bajaj, and Instagram as well. Yep. Another resource where you post lots of tips, it looks like.
Yep, so I share lots of videos. There's lots of videos on there around mindfulness, thinking errors, challenging your thinking. So the purpose of my Instagram and Facebook is really around mental health awareness, sharing tips, almost like having a mini psychologist in your pocket.
I like it.
And then I'm in the process of writing a book as well, which is around relationships. So the relationship with yourself and other people, and how you can balance that. So that will have lots of tips and techniques as well.
Great.
But there's lots of resources. So I think it's really about listening to what you need. If it's emergency care that you need, or you're feeling suicidal or you're self-harming, then it is about going straight to A&E, or calling emergency services. If you are feeling very low in mood, you can also speak to the Samaritans. So they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's also a branch in Uxbridge that you can walk into if you need to.
Okay.
So they are constantly available if you feel like you can't talk to anyone else and you're feeling quite low. But in terms of general information, I'd say the Mind website is very good for general tips and techniques and information that's available around mental health.
And you have clinics locally?
I do. So I have a base in Uxbridge, and I also have a couple of bases in central London as well. So the best thing would be to contact me via my website and we'll be able to chat more.
It's funny, I was reading a bit about the Blue Monday thing online, and a couple of companies or organisations taking advantage of the PR, I think. There's the Sea Life London Aquarium. They've created a Blue Monday zone in front of their ocean tank.
Wow, okay.
People can log on and call their work buddies in a calming underwater setting.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
They say research proves that underwater displays can have a positive effect on people's well-being. So it's a good place to de-stress. And
probably a part of that is being more mindful of your surroundings, actually. So you can actually be more mindful on a day-to-day basis if you can't go to the aquarium and kind of stare at the fish. So that can be really simple, of just something like picking a colour and looking around the room and really focusing on that colour. So what you're doing is giving your brain a chance to turn down the volume on any negative thoughts and focus on the here and now, because we can get caught up in the past or in the present, in the future. So it helps you to stay here in the present. But yeah, that sounds really good.
Other techniques we could probably use, I guess, would be exercise and sport and music maybe.
Yep, so exercise and sport, that raises your endorphin levels and that helps you to feel good, and there's a form of physical release because there is a mind-body connection. So sometimes our body can hold fatigue and pain even if we can't verbalise this. So I think that's a really positive thing to consider. And think about what makes you feel good. So it might be music. The only thing with music is I would say just pay attention to what you're listening to, because we know that music does have an impact on our moods as well. So if you're feeling particularly low, you might not want to choose a form of music that makes you feel even more sad. So perhaps thinking about music that makes you feel happier. You could also use things like visualization techniques. So imagining that you're in a safe place, what would that look like? How would you feel? And smell is actually a really powerful tool to help shift the way that we feel. So think about a smell that makes you feel happy and alive. So it might be your favorite cologne or perfume, or a candle that you have. So smell can also be quite powerful in changing our mood. So all of our senses are really powerful.
We'd love to have you back again on Uxbridge FM to talk about mindfulness and health and well-being.
I'd love to be back. Sounds good.
Well, for now, thank you very much for coming in and telling us about Blue Monday and tips to stay alive and less depressed.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So let's use this as an opportunity to reframe what Blue Monday means to us, and a chance to really think about our self-care. So I'd urge everyone today at least to do one positive thing for yourself. Do one thing that makes you happy today.
And by the way, there's a date in June around midsummer. That's apparently the happiest day of the year.
Ah, okay.
So we look forward to that.
Yes, sounds good.
Thank you, Rina. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye for now.